Hi everyone, welcome to this channel on African culture and nature heritage. This is my first video in English. I'm not used to talk English, but this one is a special one because we want to talk about something very interesting. We are going to talk about the launch of a special publication to the continent. I'm talking about the book Heritage, Authenticity, Interiority and Practice in Africa. This book was launched recently in the 48th session of the World Heritage Committee that took place in Busan, Republic of Korea. And this book is a result of a conference that held back in 2025 in Nairobi, Kenya. The Nairobi Conference on the Cultural Heritage in Africa. So as a result of this conference that debated the concept of authenticity regarding the World Heritage Convention and its implementation in Africa. Yeah, so this conference gathered together there in Nairobi specialists, members of the community, and also heritage professionals to discuss about the concept of authenticity and its implementation in Africa. So as a result of this debate, we have this book on heritage authenticity in Africa. So this video is about this book. We are going to show here how was the launch of the publication, and I think it's very interesting to capture the intervention from specialists, from government representatives that were there in Busan, and also from the authors. And so we are going to show it here in this video. Stay tuned to the channel. See this video until the end so that you can know how it was. And I think it was a very interesting debate. So stay until the end. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. And here in the description, you will find the link to download the book.
Our colleague, Ambassador, Permanent Delegate of Japan, who supported this process since the beginning. The African World Heritage Fund, with Dr. Jopela is here.
Today, it's my great pleasure to join to celebrate the launch of the important volume, Heritage, Authenticity in Theory and Practice in Africa, which captures the rich discussions and reflections of the Nairobi conference held last year.
I want to thank Japan double because you gave us the resources, but you also gave us two people who are very critical. Without those two, it would have been really impossible to get this book in 1 year.
We believe that the Nairobi conference marked a significant milestone in advancing reflection on the concept of authenticity in relation to African cultural heritage. Held 30 years after the adoption of the Nara document on authenticity made in Japan, it provided a timely opportunity to revisit this important concept through perspectives rooted in African experiences and realities. The Nara document reminds us that authenticity is not defined by a single cultural perspective. Rather, it must be assessed within the cultural context to which heritage belongs. And the Nairobi conference, actually, in that sense, it is really a landmark occasion. So Japan remains firmly committed to supporting this ongoing dialogue and to working together with UNESCO, the government of Kenya, and African state parties, and all our partners. May this publication serve not only as a record of the Nairobi conference, but also as an inspiration for the next chapter in our journey from Nara to Nairobi and beyond.
It is both a privilege and a profound honor for the African World Heritage Fund to be part of this special occasion where we present the outcomes of the Nairobi conference on heritage and authenticity in Africa. Today we celebrate much more than the launch of a publication. We celebrate the journey of ideas, of dialogue, of listening, and above all, of Africa finding its voice with confidence and conviction in shaping the future of World Heritage Convention. At the heart of the Nairobi outcome lies a question that is both simple and transformative. Who has the authority to define authenticity? For too long, many African heritage places have been interpreted through frameworks that privilege stone over story, monument over memory, and a fabric over faith. Yet, across Africa, authenticity also lives in songs carried from one generation to another, in sacred forests where ancestors are remembered, in rituals that renew humanity's bond with nature, in oral traditions that preserve history without a single written page, and in the wisdom of communities who have protected those places long before the language of heritage conservation existed. So the Nairobi outcome reminds us that authenticity is not frozen in time. It breathes, it evolves, it's lived. This is not about rewriting the convention. It is about allowing it to become more fully universal by embracing the richness of humanity's many ways of understanding, valuing, and protecting heritage.
The Nairobi Conference reaffirms the essential of principle, and authenticity is not just a fixed concept. It's an evolving thing that we have to work on.
The question that we are asking is whether the convention is inclusive enough of those heritages that we have. And if not, could we then be able to add those elements that are missing so that it becomes inclusive? So Africa is asking to be able to contribute towards enriching the heritage of humanity. We know the historical background. That authenticity framework was largely shaped by the Venice Convention, which was developed after the Second World War to address heritage that had been destroyed in Europe. It became universal. It applied in Africa. And we also have monuments, and it has served us well. But it wasn't made for those particular areas, because it focuses much more on material authenticity, which we have, on monumentality, which we have, and on original fabric, which we have. But we have more than that. We have living cultural practices. We have community-based. We are community-based. We continuously renew and reconstruct the heritage. The heritage is closely linked to nature, spirituality, and traditions. Authenticity is maintained through continuity of meaning, but we know that the system that was introduced during colonial time was adapted at independence and has continued up to the present, most of it, which makes it very difficult to negotiate and on a platform that is proper. Why the conference? Because we remain underrepresented on the World Heritage. And we've been asking why? Huh? We are so many on the danger list. Why? Is it because we are Africa? Capacity building has been ongoing for a long time. We have the global strategy. We have all kinds of strategies. Now we even have Africa priority. And still we are having the imbalance. Existing authenticity frameworks do not fully reflect African realities that I am mentioning and that have been mentioned here. So Nairobi created the first platform for us to be able to dialogue and discuss, because we are asking, why Nairobi? Why is it coming? We already had Nara. In our context, authenticity is plural, is contextual, and it is dynamic. I cannot go into details, and I hope that we will be able to read that book so that it explains much more. Heritage is sustained through communities, living traditions, and intergenerational transmission from generation to generation. The same way that you see that kid sitting there and looking at that guy making that. There is indigenous knowledge. And communities are owners and custodians, not just stakeholders. And nature and culture are so intertwined the same way that you see that wall and the tree is intertwined. Tangible and intangible is so similar, it's the same, because without intangible, you have no meaning for the tangible. And UNESCO has been in the forefront of calling for the conventions to work together, the 2003 and the 1972. We are trying to practicalize, to operationalize by this particular discussion that we are talking about here. So the authenticity that we are calling about is about sustaining the meaning, not only preserving the fabric, dismantling the artificial barriers between nature and culture, ensuring that tangible and intangible go together, that one gives meaning to the other one. And people ask, but we have Nara. What is the difference? What do you want? Nara looked at the Asian perspective. The Nairobi conference is African perspective, but with a global relevance. We know Nara also looked at intangible heritage, at spirituality, but a lot of it probably. For Africa, it adds community custodianship and continuity. Nara heritage is linked to stable physical sites that are there. The temple, you remove the material, you keep it, you document it, okay? In Africa, it evolves. You can move from this site, go to the next site, but the memory is held in all this, and it becomes a cultural landscape, and you can look at it. And that particular baobab tree that you see in that old site is not just a baobab tree. It's a spiritual site, it's a site of memory, it's a powerful representation of those who have gone. Nara focuses on the assessment of attributes and others. Africa focuses on governance and lived heritage, on custodianship, on ownership, on use. We want IUCN, ICOMOS, ICROM to be partners in this, not to be scared of this, but to be partners so that we can walk this journey together, so that at the end of the day, we are able to work together and create something. Nobody is forcing, we are adding. What are the proposed outcomes? Proposed that integrating African perspective into the operational guidelines will ensure that some of the things that we are calling for can now be normalized, and we can be together included in this big family that is guided by the 1972 Convention. That recognizing continuity of cultural practices along material fabric is important. That we have to strengthen community-led heritage governance, where they become owners and not just sitting on the side. That we do it for them, with them, and not without them. Better recognizing indigenous knowledge systems, making heritage conservation more inclusive and representative. And you find that even in Asia. When you look at the other photo that I showed, I was also showing that you have that in Asia. In Vietnam, you have the material knowledge, that the way that the buildings that we're talking about, how you made the coral, when you left it in the rain to rain, so that the chemicals, the salts can be taken away and go, and then you build, and then you have houses that last for 1,000 years. That knowledge is built, and we are not using that knowledge. This is the traditional knowledge, the indigenous knowledge that we're talking about. How do we recognize it in the convention? Africa's contribution to global heritage means that we have to reframe authenticity as dynamic rather than static. That we bring more inclusive, people-centered understanding of authenticity that strengthens the credibility and relevance of the World Heritage Convention, rather than us continuously arguing whether we are in or not. It does not replace existing heritage frameworks. Let's not fear it. It enriches them by ensuring authenticity reflects diversity of how heritage is created, sustained, valued across cultures. If you tell me that heritage is just inheritance, then why are we here? We are also makers of heritage. I will feel very bad if I'm not a creator of heritage, because then I'll be useless. I'll just be depending on what my grandparents and great-grandparents did. So heritage is a continuation. We enrich it all the time as we move on. I will not talk about the book because this is going to be launched, but this is the way it is. 45 international authors, mostly Africans. Conclusion, the Nairobi outcome does not replace existing heritage frameworks. It does not. It really does not. It strengthens the World Heritage Convention by broadening the understanding of authenticity so that it better reflects the cultural diversity expressions worldwide. So what we are saying is that from material authenticity to authenticity grounded on people, on continuity, and on living heritage. On elders having a voice, on scholars and participants talking, on organizations like UNESCO, on youth, on different countries from the world.
So we have to look at the defining authenticity as an evolving and dynamic process, something that is not static. And we have to also acknowledge heritage as a living and a community-centered process, which is embedded in everyday lives of communities. And secondly, we have also to move beyond the Eurocentric approach to a more inclusive framework. What we are saying here, transmission is locally influenced, which we interpret as outstanding universal values. How do we involve and embed those transmissions in our definition and practices of authenticity? Thirdly, we want to empower local and indigenous voices. We want to move beyond ticking boxes and token approaches of engaging and involving communities.
It will allow us to also understand and accommodate some dynamic aspects such as continuity and change, because they are part of the life of the site, especially when those sites are living, evolving, and dynamic, and the management is community-centered. So what we are asking for is to have a broader understanding that would accommodate the sites which have a dynamic character.
This does not refer to the fixed appearance of heritage at a particular moment in time. Rather, it recognizes the entirety of the tangible and intangible attributes that embody the significance of heritage. So the legitimate change accumulated over time are understood not as a loss of authenticity, but as historical evidence that contributes to the heritage significance.
This is a launch of a new thinking, and I think we have to be adopted, and we have to see how it can reflect on other places globally. This publication is not just a normal draft of another document. It reflects the importance as a record for reference for researchers, practitioners, and decision makers. But at the same time, it gives us a practical guideline to be interpreted by heritage identification, conservation, and management.
It is therefore my sincere appeal to every heritage professional, every student, every site manager, every policymaker, and every member of the World Heritage community. Please read this book. It's free. Share it. Teach from it. Challenge it. Build upon it. The publication is made freely available because knowledge should never be confined by borders or by privilege. Its ideas belong to Africa, but its message belongs to the world.
Thank you very much. It is now my great honor to declare the publication officially launched.